Welcome to this edition of the 700 Club. Do you know there's not one single drug on the market that it can cure Alzheimer's? We've got a guest that'll tell you a program to do it. You don't want to miss it. The president is fighting back against congressional Democrats challenging subpoenas to former aides and discouraging current and former advisors from testifying. As Charlene Aaron reports, the president and his allies believe Congress is out to destroy his presidency.
The White House is pushing back against congressional investigations. President Trump says he's against White House aides testifying to Congress and planning to fight in court a subpoena issued to former White House counsel Don McGahn. The president told the Washington Post Tuesday there is no reason to go any further, and especially in Congress where it's very partisan, obviously very partisan.
They don't want to get to the truth. They want to get to this president. And at this point, I don't know what Jerry Nadler thinks he's going to get that Robert Mueller didn't, except for some political points with the base.
Nadler and others have vowed to move ahead investigating Trump-related matters, ranging from potential obstruction of justice related to the Mueller probe to his personal and business taxes. The administration appears to be setting up another fight on that front, the Treasury Department skipping a second deadline to turn over the president's tax returns. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin says he wants to consult on the legal implications of such a move. On Tuesday's 700 Club, Regent Law Dean Mark Martin suggested turning over the taxes would be a terrible precedent.
I think every American has a lot to fear because if a branch of the federal government can just decide that they want to publicly illuminate any of our tax returns, we no longer have any legitimate right of privacy.
Meanwhile, Democrats are divided over whether to pursue impeachment. Several on the campaign trail are calling for impeachment proceedings, but the leadership isn't committing to that path.
I do believe that impeachment is one of the most divisive paths that we could go down to in our country. But if the path of fact-finding takes us there, we have no choice. But we're not there yet.
GOP Senate Judiciary Chairman Lindsey Graham says the Democrats are stampeding to impeachment.
They're going to use the Mueller report, anything they can find to try to destroy his presidency. Nancy Pelosi's not in charge of the Democratic Party. The radical left is in charge.
Meanwhile, the president says he's not concerned about being impeached. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Is your belief that suicide bombers are poor, uneducated people from the lower classes? Well, the truth is, the man who was involved in the Sri Lanka bombing actually was trained as a lawyer. Muhammad Atta was trained as an architect. These are highly educated people who have fallen for the lie of Islam, extremist Islam, and they don't mind taking the lives of other people. Well, Sri Lankan security officials are resigning over those deadly Easter terror attacks. John Jessup has more about what's happening.
That's right, Pat. Sri Lanka's president has asked for the resignations of the defense secretary and national police chief after the attacks that killed 359 people. This comes as we're learning more about the suicide bombers. A Sri Lankan official says the 9 suicide bombers were breakaway members of 2 extremist Muslim groups. Many of them were highly educated, as Pat was just saying, coming from middle and upper middle class families. At least one had a law degree, while others studied in the UK and Australia. Officials are also admitting they missed warnings of the attacks. ISIS has claimed responsibility for the blasts, releasing images it says is of the group of bombers. Presidential advisor Jared Kushner says the Trump administration plans to release its Middle East peace proposal after the Muslim holy month of Ramadan ends in June. Trump's chief Middle East negotiator telling a forum they're approaching the Israeli-Palestinian issue with a fresh perspective.
What we're going to put out is different. Our focus is really on the bottom up, which is how do you make the lives of the Palestinian people better? What can you resolve to allow these areas to become more investable? We deal with all the core status issues because you have to do it, but we've also built a robust business plan for the whole region. I think that the two together have the opportunity to push forward.
Palestinian leaders have said the plan will be dead on arrival. They haven't met with Israeli leaders in more than 2 years. Well, mixed reactions from Middle East nations to Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's move to end exceptions on sanctions for Iranian oil. As Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem, the decision increases the economic pressure on the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Last November, the U.S. granted waivers to 7 countries and Taiwan to import Iranian oil. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said that grace period is over.
I'm announcing that we will no longer grant any exemptions. We're going to zero across the board. Our goal has been to get countries to cease importing Iranian oil entirely.
Iran's Lebanese ally Hezbollah condemned the move.
President Trump does not care about anything, and at the same time, he is trying to punish others by accusing them of supporting terrorism. He is personally practicing and supporting terrorism.
Turkey warned of the consequences to the Middle East.
Politically, it is not right. Ethically, it is not right. In terms of commerce, it is definitely not right. And it is also against international laws of commerce, against World Trade Organization laws, and it is risky for the region's stability.
Yet during a holiday visit to Capernaum, the town where Jesus ministered, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu welcomed the decision.
President Trump and the U.S. government's decision to intensify the sanctions against Iran is a decision of very great importance. This is the way to deal with Iranian aggression, and this is the way to stop it.
The move is just the latest attempt to economically squeeze the country the State Department calls the biggest state supporter of terrorism in the world. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Thanks, Chris. Well, U.S. oil sanctions could be good for Americans at the gas pump. The news has oil prices slipping below a 6-month high as market watchers predict suppliers will increase their output in response to those sanctions. More oil could mean a halt in rising gas prices. Californians paying more than $4 a gallon this week. And the stock market is showing strong signs of rebounding after struggling late last year. Tuesday, the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ hit record highs, the S&P rising nearly 26 points, the NASDAQ popping 105 points. The Wall Street Journal reports the market is responding to the new Fed policy path of not increasing interest rates.
Well, it depends on interest rates and on the flow of money. That seems to control the whole thing. But for those that are in the market, it's a pretty good time. So the word is be somewhat cautious because a recession may be down the road, but right now it's happy days are here again.